This is Lions on Tap, a weekly look inside the Lions Den. Highlights, interviews, and a look ahead to what's next for the Leos. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski, and Bob the Moj Marjanovic.
Welcome, everyone. This is BC Lions on Tap on AM 730 in the Lions Audio Network. We are coming to you live tonight from St. James Well in Newport Village in Port Moody, and great little pub they have here, and beautiful location, as I mentioned, in Newport Village, and a lot to get to in this half hour as we talk a lot of Lions football. Lions coming off a 30-6 victory in Winnipeg. Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski. Man, oh man. Not to say I was extremely shocked, but a little surprised that BC could manhandle Winnipeg like that in Winnipeg.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. It was a complete team effort, specifically on defense. And, yeah, I'm with you. Went in there cautiously optimistic, measuring stick game. But, yeah, to hold them out of the end zone. And there were even a couple of moments, I don't know about you, that night where I'm thinking, oh, boy, here we go. Specifically that pin them back at the 1-yard line, and they convert that long second down before half. Hold them to a field goal, though, bend but don't break, and then come all the way down and score a touchdown before the end. Right then and there, you got the sense that just might be their night.
Well, yeah, that was the ball game, because at that point it's either, I mean, if Winnipeg scores on that first and goal, it's 10-10, right?
Yeah.
Instead, the Lions get the ball back with 45 seconds, and they march it down, and, you know, they have a touchdown on the drive.
11-point swing, right?
Yeah, it's 17-6 at that point. So, Nick, I mean, to me, that was pretty much the ball game.
For sure, and for the game, like the physicality the defense played with really from the get-go. Like we saw, I always look back to that Josh Banks hit on that third quarter kickoff where the complete decleater.
I could still hear it. Yeah.
But the tone the defense played with, they sent a message to Winnipeg that they're going to punch back. And Winnipeg, they've been the champs for the last couple of seasons, but it's up for the taking this year, and they really made a statement. It's week 3. And I think we're moving on already, but it was week 3, and it was a great victory in a hostile territory.
Well, of course, Lions win in Winnipeg. Road doesn't get easier. They're off to Toronto for a matchup against the defending Grey Cup champion Argonauts on Monday. And, you know, if we're talking Toronto, we've got to bring the Toronto expert in. He's in the neighborhood. Of course, he's left his palatial estate over on what is it, Eagle Harbor Drive or whatever the hell it's called. Julio Caravetta.
I'm not giving out my address, Moj. If that's what you're looking for.
Hey, it's the biggest house on the street.
No, it's not.
It's
it actually would be the smallest.
It's the biggest house on the street.
No, it's not.
And speaking of Toronto, he's Doug Ford's old lineman, right?
No. Doug Ford. Rob Ford was my old center.
Yeah.
And Doug was the tailback.
Correct.
I was the quarterback.
You were the quarterback. Yeah, yes.
And guess who was the coach? Gino Retta.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about that for a couple of throwbacks, huh?
Legend.
But nice to be with you guys. This is you're right. This is a legendary local hangout here in Port Moody.
We've got a few Caravetta pictures on the wall. I noticed that. It was pretty cool.
I don't think so.
They haven't got the jersey up. I guess that got stolen last week or something. But, you know, we were talking about that Winnipeg game, and I know we'll get into Toronto in a second. By the way, Neil McEvoy, Lions co-GM, scheduled to join us for the last couple of segments. But, you know, it's interesting. The people in Winnipeg were like, oh, my God, what just happened? Particularly certain people that we know in the media.
Right? Yeah.
I just don't understand. Like they beat the Lions in the Western Final. Like they didn't crush them, right? They got beat. But I was just shocked that I was shocked at how shocked they were that the Lions actually won a game. Like I just couldn't believe. Like this is a good team, and I think everybody going into this season knew the Lions were going to be good. And if Vernon, the way Vernon's playing, I mean you have to think that they're one of the teams to beat.
Well, you know, the way the defense is playing makes Vernon's life easier, and you
Sure
know that,
does.
Julio. I mean, like, as a quarterback, I mean, if your defense is giving up 30, there's that pressure that you got to hang 35. When your defense is giving up 6, 10, 0, whatever the number, it's like, okay, you know what? We really don't have to push the issue here. We can be smart.
And that's exactly what we said. We talked about that at the end of the game. That's what jumped out to me was Vernon's ability not to. There was never any panic. There was never any he's trying to push things downfield. He was just taking what the defense gives him. And then one of the things you got to learn as a quarterback is that you're not always going to win, right? You're not going to win on every play. You need to be able to say, hey, the defense wins, throw the ball away. Sometimes you take a sack, but you can kick the ball away and let your defense play. It's those turnovers in a game that really, really hurt you and can turn a game around. And the Lions just aren't making those mistakes.
No Dominique Rhymes, no Keon Hatcher, but I look at the Steve Daniel stats pack he sends today. Alex Hollins leading in receptions, right?
He has been.
Yeah, but overall, how much of this is due to the fact that Vernon and these receivers, all these skill players, were together down in Tacoma preparing before camp?
That's an excellent point, because not only are you going over the plays, but it also creates a chemistry.
Yeah.
And that you can really see, not just with the receivers, I think with the entire team, that chemistry that's there. It is something that I know Neil will probably talk about, and it's a real important factor when you're building a team. Is sometimes you're not going to have the best player because he's not going to fit, and you'll take a guy maybe with a little bit less talent but's got the character that you want for that locker room. And you can see that this team really is about the team. They are playing for one another. And to your point about the receivers, the other big part of that, Matty, for me, is Vernon Adams and his ability to have really kind of gotten this offense where he is just allowing his athleticism to take over. There's not as much thinking. It's all reaction. It's just him going out there and being Vernon. And you can just see the comfort level with the offense is at another level.
Toronto and Edmonton this past weekend. Argonauts knock off the Elks 43-31 in a score that flattered Edmonton. It doesn't get any easier for the Lions going on the road. I mean, they took on the Western Division champs this past weekend, or Thursday, I should say, taking on the Bombers. Now they go to Toronto to take on the defending Grey Cup champions.
And they look good, right?
Yeah.
They're very good on defense. Chad Kelly's been very good for them. He's got a little bit of that gunslinger mentality, which is kind of nice to see. He's willing to take some chances, which is, as far as watching and being a fan, it makes it a lot more fun and interesting to watch. But there again, they've done a really nice job in Toronto building that team, and defensively, they're going to get after you. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Julio, great stuff. Thanks for
buddy.
stopping by.
Appreciate it.
Julio Caravetta here at St. James Well in Newport Village in Port Moody. And more coming up as co-GM Neil McEvoy steps into the big chair. We'll talk to him about the Lions win in Winnipeg, the upcoming game in Toronto, and some personnel moves that the Lions made today. You're listening to BC Lions on Tap on AM 730 and the Lions Audio Network.
Now, back to Lions on Tap. Here again is Bob Marjanovic.
This is Lions on Tap on AM 730 and the Lions Audio Network. It's the Moach, Bob Marjanovic, along with Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions Audio Network. Tonight we come to you from St. James Well in Newport Village in Port Moody. Great local pub here in the village, and always a treat coming down and seeing Riley Abelman and his crew. And great night here tonight as we talk football. Just heard from Julio Caravetta. And now the co-GM of the BC Lions slides into the big chair, Neil McEvoy. Neil, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much for having me. Wonderful event.
This is so formal between us now, isn't it? It's kind of almost uncomfortable the way we're so formal right now.
Well, since I'm obviously have a comedic background, I have to be very professional and formal when I'm on this, especially when my aunt is in the house. I have to be on my best behavior, which I will be.
You think you have a comedic background. Hey, nothing to laugh at, though, with your team's victory in Winnipeg, knocking off the Blue Bombers 30-6. We were talking about in the first segment. By all means, we expect BC to compete and possibly win the game, but to win it 30-6 and manhandle the Bombers like that really was a statement, wasn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? The team played really well. We have a lot of confidence with our group, but at the end of the day, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are a great football team and have been great. Those are who we are striving to be, and I know we don't want to say statement, we don't want to say anything, but at the end of the day, that was a game where we went in and beat them up. We were more physical, we played faster, we had a better game plan. We did everything that we wanted to do, which, again, you're hoping to get to that point, and it was exciting to see, especially when they remember, they got the kickoff, they drove down for 3 points, and we came back and scored a touchdown, and since then we didn't give the lead up.
Every time you got punched, you punched right back, and that was even more evident with the field goal right before half, and then scoring a touchdown to go into the locker room ahead 17-6. There's a gentleman by the name of Wally Buono. He tweets every so often. He's a big Lions fan. Yep. He said it was the most dominant performance by a Lions team in the last decade. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yes, I would. Yeah. I mean, every aspect of the game we took advantage of, which, when it's football, it's professional football, it's archaic. We are, imposing our will against a football team, and they're trying to stop you to do it, and they could not do it. That's called BC Lion football at the end of the day, and that's what we did. And now we're going to continue to do it. How's that? We are just going to put our foot down and keep on winning. That's what this team's built to do.
Neil, part of the duties for me on the road, as you know, take Coach Rick and a couple players to the stadium for TSN sit-downs and media. I had the big town car waiting for us there on the tarmac, and couple of Winnipeg.
Did Dwayne okay the town car? I'm not sure if he did or not.
He has now. Okay. He just found out about it. But couple of local media folks in Winnipeg also there taking part, and they talked to who we bring, and one of the fellas was going with the theme of one of the reasons Winnipeg has been so good is because of their veterans, their continuity. Guys have been together for a while. And he was asking if we are sort of heading down that road. We've got a lot of guys back for year 3, 4. How much of that has played into this for you?
Yeah, if you go back with our football team, let's say the birth was 2021. We drafted a bunch of young guys, and we felt in 21 that if we can just stay with this group and not bring in a bunch of old guys to help us compete in 21 and then hurt us in 22. We felt if we kept the group together that we would be, better off. And right now we're seeing that we are better off. I mean, the group is what it is. It's a young group of guys that's excited to play, but we did take our lumps. Like, how many times have we gone into Winnipeg and it's been reversed?
Yeah.
Remember? I mean,
a couple of years ago.
I hate to say it, but I know we shut out a team a couple weeks ago. Well, guess what? In 21, we were shut out in Winnipeg.
We were there, yeah.
So we know exactly what it's like to lose there, and it's exciting to see this team take the next step to know what it's like to win there, because, that's what we did.
And then part of my job on game days is being as close to the sideline as I can be, capturing the game. And on Thursday there, I'm seeing guys like you hear about Matthew Betts and Gary Peters making all their plays, getting their love. But then you see guys like Ryder Varga flying down the field and making a special teams tackle on Janarian Grant. Adrian Green made a tackle on Grant too and is coming up, no helmet, all fired up. Like how pleased does it make you to see guys like that contributing as well? Like every single player on this roster is contributing.
At the end of the day, it's professional football. You have to have a roster of 45 men that are going to dominate the football game to win in places like Winnipeg. And you know what? We did have 45 guys that came to the game knowing they wanted to win and won. We played more physical. We played faster, like I said before. We did everything that was needed to beat Winnipeg. Because if you don't have that type of mentality going in, then it's reversed and you lose 30-6 or whatever the score was.
Lions co-GM Neil McEvoy is our guest. It's the Moj, Bob Marjanovic, along with Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions Audio Network. We're coming to you from St. James Well in Newport Village in Port Moody tonight. It's interesting, Neil, you talked a couple of minutes ago about bringing in players and not bringing in, say, veterans and, maybe being okay for a year and then having to take a major step back in 2 or 3 years. How much of that can be attributed, the success can be attributed to having faith in Ryan Rigmaiden and your scouting staff? Because you know what a CFL veteran can do. You've seen him, but you really don't know what a Smoke Mizell can do or a Josh Banks. Now you're depending on Ryan and your scouting staff to say, hey, you know what? We can go to war with these guys. We can win games with these guys. And I'll get to the running back situation in a second, but how much of that success has been dependent on having trust and faith in your scouting staff?
Yeah, you have to have trust in those guys, and I trust Ryan with a lot of things, and he continues to bring us good football players, and that's what he is. He's a professional. He brings guys that not only are going to be good on the football field, but we have a tight-knit group of guys, and I've said this all along. You not only have to be good on the field, you have to fit within our group, and there's been times this year where we haven't had guys fit, and the next day you're no longer here. And so you have to fit within our group, and with that, obviously play at a high level on the field.
But, it's interesting. George McPhee talked about this with the Las Vegas Golden, or probably the Vegas Golden Knights when they won the Stanley Cup. And he said, we want people that are hard workers, low ego, right, and people that fit. But he made a great point. It wasn't just about players and coaches. It's everyone else. Yeah. It's your scouts. It's your trainers. It's your equipment guys. It's your front office staff. And it's not necessarily a team that wins a championship, but an organization.
Absolutely. The whole group is in this to win. And, It's a great group. It's a family. It is honestly a family that we have put together here that trusts everybody, works hard together, and with that comes good things with hard work. And as you saw last week in Winnipeg, good things happen when good people work together.
We will continue with Lions co-GM Neil McEvoy. Of course, we're coming to you from St. James Well Pub at Newport Village in Port Moody. By the way, we're going to give away some tickets before the end of the night as well, so stay tuned for that. But we have much more coming up. We'll talk to Neil about a personnel move they made today. The Lions did at running back. Also, Nick Kowalski's world-famous BC Lions trivia is coming up in the next segment. We'll see if we can stump Neil. All that and more coming up. This is BC Lions on Tap on AM 730 in the Lions Audio Network.
Now, back to Lions on Tap. Here again is Bob Marjanovic.
It's the Moj, Bob Marjanovic, along with Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions Audio Network. We are coming to you tonight from St. James Well Pub in Newport Village in Port Moody. Great locale here, and a big thank you to Riley Abelman and his crew for having us. This is, of course, Lions on Tap on AM 730 in the Lions Audio Network. Our guest is Lions co-GM Neil McEvoy. Neil, before we get to taking a look ahead to the matchup against the Toronto Argonauts on Monday, a move today at the running back position. Antonio Williams released, and you bring in American running back Sean Shivers, who played his 4 years at Auburn and then finished up at the University of Indiana. Just take us through that move and why it was made.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we felt Antonio was going to be dispendable, and we felt that bringing in a younger guy that would complement Mr. Taekwon would be in our best interest. So that was what we did. This move was made a couple weeks ago, to be quite honest, and we were able to make the move at this point. Last week we only had a 2-day week, so it's tough to bring a guy in to even evaluate him when you only have 2 days of practice. So we made the move, and if you watch Mr. I believe it's Shivers, I know we can talk all night on how it should be Shivers, but
yes.
If you watch his highlight film, he's a power of muscle that I think is going to be a good fit to our football team.
How much has the run game, specifically Smoke, benefited overall from the better play up front with the offensive line?
Well, that's a good point. I think our offensive lines play well, but I mean, at the end, Taekwon's a good running back. I mean,
yeah.
The coaches and we were all a little bit nervous because the previous running back was such a great pass blocker.
Yeah.
And if you go back and watch the film, even in preseason, and especially week 1 in Calgary, you can really see that he took that and ran with it. That's a pun.
Yeah.
But he really, if you watch him, he goes up to the line, he points. Yeah. He knows exactly what's going on, and that's one of the things that I liked about him is that he puts his helmet into the chest plate of the linebackers coming in. So that made the decision that much more easier, and we haven't looked back.
That's the one thing about Smoke Mizell, and guys, you mentioned it, Neil mentioned it. The one thing we see from the broadcast booth is how many times he will come up to the guard or the tackle and just kind of say, communicate with them in terms of what's happening in terms of the block. And, he's well received. When we were in Winnipeg the night before the game, guess who was eating with the offensive line?
Yeah.
Smoke Mizell, right? So it tells you right there he knows where his bread is buttered.
Yeah.
And good chemistry between Smoke Mizell and that offensive line, both on and off the field. Neil, a couple more minutes here, but let's get to Toronto. What are you expecting against the Argonauts?
Yeah, I mean, Toronto's looked good the last 2 weeks. I think they had a week 1 bye, so, I mean, you have to give them full credit for coming out and winning 2 football games. I expect our football team to be what it is, which is a tight-knit group that's going to play hard. So Toronto's going to have to play hard to beat us. We're going to have to play hard to beat them. So typical professional football, this isn't a off week. There never is an off week. Our off week comes in the bye when we don't have to play anybody. So we're going to have to be at our top game to beat the Argos in their home field. But that being said, they're going to have to be at their top game to beat us too.
All right, one of the newest things that's It's a social media craze. You read about it on Twitter. You see about it on Facebook. It's Nick Kowalski's world-famous trivia. They're talking about this from Mission to Montreal, all right? Last week, Rick Campbell, he was part of it. This week, we're going to give you an opportunity as well.
Okay.
So, Nick, what do you got for us tonight?
All right, let's run it. So, with I was looking for the topic this week, a trending topic, and I went to receivers. Dominic Grimes, Keon Hatcher, looking like they're getting closer and closer. So, my question for you guys today is, name the last 13 BC Lion receivers to reach 1,000 yards in one season. And I did 13 because the last 3 count, and I hope they're freebies.
Whitehead, Rhymes,
Brian Burnham,
Hatcher, Burnham,
Manny Arsenault.
You got Whitehead and Rhymes, so that's 5. That's the last 5 to do it. Burnham did it in 19, Arsenault 17.
Simon
did it in 2011 last.
Okay. Jason Claremont maybe in the group?
He is there. He did it in 2007. By the way, this goes back to 1994.
Ryan Felwell.
Oh,
Ryan Felwell was incorrect.
Incorrect. Wow.
Neil,
1995.
94.
How about Trevathan? Mike Trevathan.
Mike
Clark.
Trevathan did it
Clark.
in 1996.
What
I was
about
telling
Yep.
Ebenhart he
Darren
changed.
Flutie.
Darren Flutie's the
Darren
last
Flutie.
guy to do it in 94, so that's the cutoff.
So so it doesn't go far back as 94.
Quick story, Ebenhart, I didn't like the fact he changed his number from 77 to 80 because of Mike
Because
Trevathan.
of Mike
One of the
Trevathan.
greatest
There you
receivers
go.
of all time.
You're missing a 2003, a 2014, a 2000.
Matt Clark?
Matt Clark is too old.
Chris Brazel.
That's the 2003.
2003. Wally's
Nicely
first
done,
year.
Vic.
So sorry, 2009, 2013,
2009. Oh,
and
boy.
2000.
Paris Jackson.
Paris Jackson
Nice.
is 2009. So you got 2 more.
So we got 2 more. What years?
2000 and what is this? 15? 13. 2013.
I saw it. I know who. Then that's a good point. He's one of my favorite receivers
Ernest
of all
Jackson.
time. No.
2013.
No, I love this guy.
Courtney Taylor?
I love this guy
Oh.
so much.
Wasn't Courtney.
Played for the Bombers. We had to bring him back because he was one of my favorite receivers of all time. Nicholas Moore.
Oh, how can we forget?
Come
Nick Moore?
on.
1100
that's-
yards in 2013.
So we're
Oh, he's the
missing what
best.
year, Nick?
2000.
2000.
2000.
Start throwing out some names.
2000.
Julio,
This is a
2000.
This is a Grey Cup year.
Receiver,
Oh,
1,000 yards.
Alfred Jackson.
There you
There
go.
you
You
go.
got it.
God, what are we talking
How
about?
could we gotta? Hey,
Alfred Jackson's one of the greatest
we gotta
receivers of all
give-
time to play for this
We
football
got to give
team.
Alfred Jackson more love. We
Yes.
couldn't get him on the 4 touchdown thing that one week, and there you go.
I was gonna
Currently
bring that up.
sheriff in the great state
Las
of Nevada.
Vegas. Yeah.
Did you see him last year at Grey Cup?
Grey
Yes.
Cup, we saw him.
Yes.
Last year
he
came
still
out of
looks.
Grey
You know
Cup.
what? Tell you what. If we're looking for a receiver this weekend, AJ
He could-
and Nick Moore could come
They
in and
could
help
both.
us.
They both
look
could
like
still
they're.
play. Yeah.
Fun fact.
G-Roy maybe not, but these two guys, I tell you what, they can come in and help us
G-Roy,
right now.
maybe not. I hope G-Roy's not listening. G-Roy, maybe not. Wow. Shout at our old friend. Hey, Neil, thanks for stopping by tonight. Appreciate you taking time
Thanks
out,
for having me.
joining
Anytime,
us.
boys. Appreciate
That's a wrap for us tonight for Lions on Tap. Of course, thank you to our engineer on site, Trevor Martinge. 9-time producer of the year. And thank you to everybody here at St. James Well, Riley Abelman and his crew. Thank you to Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski. And thank you to our operator, Sydney, back at AM 7:30 tonight. So a big thank you to her as well. Should remind you, BC Lions are in Toronto to take on the Argonauts on Monday. Yes, Holiday Monday. Resurrection Spirits pregame show will take place at 3 o'clock. Kickoff at 4 o'clock on Monday as we come to you live from Toronto. It's the Battle of the Undefeateds. The 3-0 BC Lions taking on the 2-0 Toronto Argonauts. And, Matt, are you going to make sure that Kowalski behaves himself in the big smoke in Toronto?
Oh, yeah, a lot of distractions there in the 6, as they call it. You know, Nick, he always shows up. He always puts in 110%. You don't have to worry.
I pick my spots is what I tell you.
Burn the candle at both ends. We're going to the Hockey Hall of Fame on Monday.
Oh, that's
You
going to
coming?
be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
You guys going to the Hockey Hall of Fame?
that's the plan. We'll see how tired we are, but yeah.
I'll tell you, I've been there on a couple of occasions. You guys will love it.
I've been several years ago.
Yeah,
yes.
so
Yeah.
again, enjoy yourself there Monday. Again, Monday, Lions, Argonauts on AM 7:30, Resurrection Spirits pregame show at 3, kickoff at 4. That's a wrap for us tonight. You know what I'm going to tell you before we get out of here? Do what you got to do. Just do us a favor. Be safe.